There are so many things that make the Netherlands special.
We are on a quest to experience as much of it as possible while visiting our daughter who lives here and taking Cassandra's father, who's from the Cayman Islands, on the European trip of a lifetime. This is our Netherlands story about our explorations and our family's connections with this beautiful land.
Now, on our first full day of our trip, we visited Rotterdam. This city is especially meaningful to my dad, so we really wanted to make sure that this was our first stop.
So he first visited Rotterdam in 1963 when he was 19 years old, working as a seaman aboard a cargo ship.
Now, there really weren't as many job opportunities on the island of Grand Cayman back then, although he was working at the post office at the time. He and several other Caymanian men took contracts to work on a ship that sailed between Europe and South America. This not only allowed him to go and see the world, it paid almost 3 times as much as his other job.
So now, 60 years later, we're bringing him back to Rotterdam to see how it's changed. And stay tuned, because while we were here, we made a surprising discovery about the ship that he once worked on. After our first night staying in Utrecht, we hopped on a train from Utrecht Centraal Station to Rotterdam Centraal Station, then took another short train ride to Rotterdam Black Station, which is the closest train station to Rotterdam Harbor and the other places that we wanted to visit. Not only is the train system convenient in the Netherlands, but the Netherlands is also extremely bike-friendly, and many people of all ages use bikes and trains as their primary means of transportation.
The train from Utrecht to Rotterdam was an intercity train. Intercity trains are faster and only stop at major stations. Then we took the Sprinter train to the smaller Rotterdam Black Station. Sprinters stop at all stations, but this was just a short 3-minute ride from Rotterdam Centraal. This train was not very crowded, and we were able to choose the perfect seats. You can see how much we enjoyed riding the trains. My dad had his phone out recording a video of the experience. He frequently recorded videos and sent them to family members back in the Cayman Islands, and we affectionately refer to it as Papa Cam. He captured some great footage, so throughout our Netherlands series, we'll periodically show videos from his perspective in the Papa Cam.
The Rotterdam Black Station is very close to some of the best places to visit in Rotterdam, including the famous and unique cube houses, which were built in the 1970s. One of these is designated a museum house and is fully furnished and open to the public. In a previous visit, we took the time to walk around inside of one of these to see what it looks like inside. Here's a brief glance at the interior. Definitely a unique way to live.
It was cloudy and a bit rainy today, as it often is in the Netherlands, but we pretty much just had to walk across the street to get to Markthal for lunch. Markthal is an office and residential building with a huge international food marketplace underneath. This place is truly impressive, with 228 apartments, 4,600 square meters of retail space, and an underground parking garage. Inside is a colorful celebration of foods from around the world, with bright, natural light and dazzling displays of beautiful foods and retail offerings. We love walking around in this vibrant marketplace and always find it difficult to decide on one thing to buy to eat.
We finally decided on a light lunch of not cannolis, but healthy smoothies and smoothie bowls, not wanting to eat too much before getting on board the boat for our afternoon port cruise. After lunch, we walked about 20 minutes from Markthal to Rotterdam Harbor, where our Port of Rotterdam cruise would be departing near the start of the Erasmus Bridge. Hey everybody, we're really excited today because we're taking Cassandra's father on a cruise in the Port of Rotterdam, and he was actually here about 60 years ago. He's from the Cayman Islands, and he worked aboard container ships, and they came to Europe. They went to a lot of places, but he remembers spending a lot of time in the Port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So we're really excited to bring him out here on this cruise today. The city skyline and Erasmus Bridge look beautiful as we cruise away from downtown Rotterdam toward the shipping port. After taking in the sights on the top deck, I decided to make my way down to the lower indoor seating area where Cassandra and her father were enjoying a comfortable cruise. It was the perfect place to talk to Cassidy about his time working on cargo ships that went to several European ports. How's it going, guys?
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
here I am on this tour boat with my beautiful, loving daughter Cassandra and her loving husband Scott.
Yeah. Well, I've been excited to bring you here for a long time because I was able to see this 2 years ago, and I even FaceTimed you on it. But I thought if I could ever get him to come to Europe with me, and it's because you were here. You were here as you were 19-year-old.
19 years old, and right now I'm retracing my steps
Wow.
in the port of Amsterdam, Rotterdam, sorry, where we.
Okay, so why were you here? Just tell us. So it's 1963.
Okay, well, 1963 I left Cayman and came direct to Rotterdam here from Cayman, New York, Amsterdam, here in Rotterdam. And to join the ship, it was a freighter and they need cleaning up. So the crew that came, it was 23 of us that left Cayman. So we had to clean the ship up, get the engine ready, and get all the stores for the boat for the trip we're going to travel to South America now from here. So it took us probably about 3 weeks. Can't remember the exact time, but probably about 3 or 4 weeks we were here in Rotterdam. When we left, we took on cargo here,
What kind of cargo?
steel, mostly steel products. And then we stopped in Belgium and picked up more cargo. And then we went to Le Havre, France, and picked up more cargo. And then we left to go to South America. We had to go to Colombia first to drop off some of the stuff we had picked up in these ports in Europe. So then we went through the Panama Canal, went south down to Ecuador, Guayaquil, Ecuador, and then dropping off stuff all the way down. Then we went down to Peru. I remember going to like 4 or 5 different little ports in Peru. By then we were empty.
Okay.
We had discharged everything that we brought from Europe. We started loading in to come back to Europe. It was mostly coffee.
That makes sense.
Coffee and big, huge
barrel?
200-pound bags of coffee. Then we stopped in Ecuador, Guayaquil, Ecuador, picked up some more, came through the Panama Canal, stopped in Colombia, and picked up more stuff. I remember we used to go to 2 ports in Colombia, Buenaventura and Barranquilla. They were ports that we picked up more coffee. And it was mostly coffee that we were bringing. It was amazing the amount of coffee that we brought.
Right.
And it was other cargo too, but mostly coffee. We would leave, our last port would be Colombia. Then we came back to Europe and did the same thing.
So then the European, you would drop off the coffee then to Europe.
Right.
Okay.
We brought the coffee and dropped it off in different ports in Europe, like France and Belgium, Rotterdam, Germany. We'd go right up to Denmark,
Oh, that's
right
so
up along the. And
Do you remember the name of the ship you were on?
the name of the ship was Torres, Torres.
Yeah. The Taurus.
But it had 5 hatches. And then we would load like motor cars, like from Germany we would load motor cars and steel and came right back down doing the same thing.
So now that you're here, like, how does this compare to what you're seeing today and what it looked like in 1963?
Oh, well, it's a big difference.
I bet.
Big difference now. I I see some of the buildings here that is actually still here, or I would think it were buildings that was here then. They're very low buildings that are, and they're very old looking. But the majority of the buildings here along this port now are all modern buildings that were built in the last, 30, 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember one trip we loaded in Germany. We loaded Volkswagen Bugs. You know what a Volkswagen Bug
Yeah,
is?
the cars. Yeah.
To take the from Germany to from Hamburg to South Carolina. We unloaded. I think we had 350 or 375 Volkswagens on board. From there, we left to go to Nassau, Bahamas, where they were building a cement port, which Cayman Islands was working at the time at the port. They were building a cement factory at another port to make cement, concrete. After we left South Carolina on our way, they got off the East Coast to Florida. One of the boilers caught fire, and it happened in the night. And then I was an officer's mess boy, and I was in a room with a mess boy for the crew. The ship carried two mess boys, one for the officers, one for the crew. And I was officer's mess. It happened in the middle of the night, and we were sleeping. So the AB that was on watch, he came and opened our door. Hurry, get up! The ship is burning down. We got to abandon the ship. Anyway, we got up and went back up and went by the lifeboat. And when we got to the lifeboat, when we looked, because they were hoisted up on and when we looked, you could see the moonlight shining down through the bottom of the
Oh
lifeboat.
my gosh, that's not going to serve you.
Most of them
And
had
how many people were on board?
the ship carried about 50 people, 50
In
men.
two lifeboats, and one with an
And
incident.
anyway, we all went back up where this raft was, and the ship had CO2 tanks on board, and they closed all the engine room down. That's just time the fires raging on one of the boilers. The metal is burning like it was wood. They opened all the CO2 tank one time, and they flooded the engine room with CO2, and that outed the fire. But then the ship was dead. We didn't have any engine running.
In which location? So you were
We
off?
were right out of Jacksonville.
Okay.
Wireless operator started sending out SOS, and they started sending up flares, but nobody came to. So we kept calling the Coast Guard, and the Coast Guard finally came out. And we were drifting for 3 days
Oh my gosh.
because they were having problem finding us because they couldn't give them any location because the captain never had nothing to go by to see where we were. Anyway, they found us, and they towed us into Jacksonville. Then we were there repairing the boat for several weeks. Anyway, after that, I stayed on that ship for 14 months and went home, and I was home 2 weeks. When I got my call to go to the national boat on an oil tanker.
So you were only home for 2 weeks.
2 weeks. After I was on her another 14 months, they got orders to go to Australia. I told one of the guys, I said, you know what, I'm going to get off and go home because I'm here 14 months.
Right.
Once you put in 1 year, they would call you right back.
1972.
Anyway,
Rotterdam in New York.
I got off in Italy.
Een
Me
restaurant,
and
een wijnbar
Do you remember the
en
port?
een prachtig Lido-deck
In
met
Italy?
terras en zwembad.
I think it was in Naples, and I can't remember. It was one of the ports in Italy. But we flew in from Rome to New York, Miami, back to Cayman.
Can you imagine what a big decision this was for him when you think about it? So he had never left home before, and he was leaving the home he knew in Cayman for a contract that would have been over a year, halfway across the world. So it makes me emotional, really stopping to think about it. This was long before regular phone access and just the occasional letter that he'd send back that would take weeks to arrive. You know, I'd mentioned before that His new job out to sea paid almost 3 times the amount of money that he was making at his first job. So at his first job in the post office, he was paid £12, 10 shillings per month. This is the equivalent to about $35 US. Out to sea, as a seaman, he was earning $95 US a month. So he said he would send $75 home to his mom to help care for his parents and his siblings and keep $20 to himself. After our beautiful cruise and wonderful interview with my dad, we walked along the Maritime Museum harbor, where many old ships and different types of equipment are on display that were used in the Port of Rotterdam many years ago. This is a beautiful, relaxing walk, and there are many historic ships to see along the route. We decided to go into the Maritime Museum to learn as much as possible about the history of this important shipping port. The museum has many interactive and informational displays, and we could have spent hours there soaking in the information. But my dad had the brilliant idea to go into the museum library to find information about the ship that he had worked on in this port more than 60 years ago.
The two librarians in the museum library were extremely helpful and knowledgeable. First, they helped us to find a photograph of the tourist ship that Cassidy worked on, and this is the exact photo that we showed earlier. Then they helped us to search through a series of books called Lloyd's Register of Ships, and we found that an issue was that ships are renamed every time they're sold, and the Taurus likely had had several previous names.
Your memory is amazing. I have goosebumps. Finally, the librarians found a record of my dad's ship, the Torres, and we were beyond excited to make this discovery. For many years, my dad has hoped to be able to find information about this ship, and this was a dream come true for him and all of us. It was only because of these amazing librarians and the time they took to search with us that we were able to fill in this important information from my dad's past.
At a certain point, you feel that it's your ship. It's not the ship of the company anymore.
Stay tuned for our next episode when we spend 2 full days in the beautiful city of Utrecht. We will visit the vibrant Utrecht city market, try our first fresh stroopwafel, walk around the city and see the famous Dam Tower, cruise the canals for some unique and beautiful perspectives, visit the Utrecht University Botanic Gardens, one of our favorite places to visit any time of the year, and then finally eat at one of our favorite restaurants, famous for their Dutch pancakes. You won't want to miss all of this, so please subscribe and follow along.